Under the blinding lights of the arena, in a place where strength meets grit and arrogance meets its reckoning, one man's journey stood as a living warning to those who let their mouths write checks their bodies couldn't cash. Mariusz Pudzianowski, a man forged from iron discipline and raw, unshakable power, wasn't just a champion. He was the champion. 5 times crowned the world's strongest man, he had carried cars, lifted boulders, and bent steel with a casual grin. But for Mariusz, that wasn't enough. He sought a new battlefield, one where strength wasn't just measured in deadlifts and log presses, but in fists, blood, and the raw chaos of hand-to-hand combat. He stepped into the world of mixed martial arts, and in doing so, walked straight into the path of some of the sport's cockiest, loudest, and most self-assured trash talkers. What they didn't realize was that provoking Mariusz Pudzianowski was like tossing a lit match into a powder keg. The first of these arrogant challengers came in the form of a colossal figure, Bob Sapp. On May 12, 2012, Sapp stood across from Mariusz, towering and wide. A man known for his raw knockout power and equally notorious for his dirty tactics. He didn't just show up to fight, showed up to taunt, hurling insults and dismissing Mariusz as though the Polish powerhouse were nothing more than a novelty act from the strongman world. Sapp made the fatal mistake of calling out a man whose very career was built on proving doubters wrong. When the bell rang, Mariusz didn't so much walk forward as explode forward, a caged animal suddenly unleashed. His fists flew like wrecking balls, each strike carrying the weight of his fury and the discipline of years spent mastering his body. Sapp's size meant nothing as Mariusz drove him backward, sweeping his legs out from under him and sending the massive fighter crashing to the canvas with all the grace of a toppled oak tree. The crowd roared, but it wasn't just victory. They were witnessing, it was humiliation, served with precision. When it was over, Sapp wasn't just beaten, he was humbled. But the parade of arrogance didn't end there. 2 years earlier, on September 18, 2010, Mariusz had faced another oversized ego, arrogance, better known to the world as Butterbean. The man was a boxing legend, a heavy-handed brawler whose fists could snuff out an opponent's consciousness in seconds. Butterbean had built his legacy on pure knockout power, turning his bulk into an engine of destruction. And yet in the lead-up to their fight, he waved off Mariusz's capabilities with a smug grin, predicting an easy win. The fight began with Butterbean doing what he did best, throwing heavy leather, trying to trap Mariusz with his decades of ring experience. But this wasn't a boxing match, and Pudzianowski wasn't here to play by his rules. In a sudden, explosive moment, Mariusz flipped the script and Butterbean himself. Taking the fight to the ground, Mariusz mauled the boxing veteran with such one-sided ferocity that the referee had no choice but to step in. The stoppage wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Butterbean, the self-proclaimed knockout king, had been dismantled in a different kind of fight and he would never forget it. But even the strongest meet setbacks, and Mariusz's early MMA journey wasn't without them. On May 21, 2010, he faced James Thompson, a towering British fighter who, unlike others, didn't underestimate Mariusz, but still saw him as a challenge he could conquer. The fight was brutal from the opening bell. Both men traded heavy blows, each strike carrying the possibility of ending the night. Yet in the second round, a fateful slip gave Thompson the advantage, allowing him to trap Mariusz on the mat and force a stoppage. It was a bitter loss for the strongman-turned-fighter, but it was also the spark that lit the fire of revenge. Mariusz trained relentlessly, studying his mistakes, building the skills he needed to meet Thompson again. And when the rematch came, the tone was set long before they stepped into the cage. Thompson, perhaps drunk on his prior victory, mocked Mariusz openly, even going so far as to call him a pig. It was schoolyard taunting on a professional stage, and Mariusz didn't forget. When the bell rang for their second encounter, the air felt different. This wasn't just a fight, it was retribution. Mariusz dominated from start to finish, pummeling Thompson both standing and on the ground, stripping away his arrogance with every strike. The revenge was absolute, and the once cocky opponent left with nothing but the bitter taste of defeat. Then came Serena Usman, another fighter, who made the mistake of letting his mouth work faster than his hands. His words were bold, his confidence unshakable, until reality came crashing down. When the fight began, Mariusz didn't waste a second. 18 seconds, to be exact. That's all it took for the Polish powerhouse to obliterate Usman, sending him into the realm of dazed disbelief before the first minute had even ticked away. It wasn't just a loss. It was a public dismantling, the kind that lingers far longer than a physical bruise. Even in recent years, Mariusz continued to deliver brutal lessons to those who disrespected him. On May 28, 2022, he stood across from Miko Materla, a dangerous, well-respected fighter who had earned a fearsome reputation in the heavyweight division. Materla's past achievements had filled him with confidence, maybe too much. He too poked at Mariusz, perhaps believing the years had softened the legendary strongman. But once again, the ring revealed the truth. Mariusz unleashed a barrage of strikes that staggered Materla before landing a thunderous blow that shut his lights out entirely. The crowd erupted, not just for the knockout, but for the poetic justice of it all over the years. Mariusz Pudzianowski's journey through combat sports has been more than a string of victories. It has been a story of respect earned and demanded. Every fighter who stepped in front of him with arrogance found themselves on the receiving end of a brutal reality check. His fists became the ultimate equalizer, turning trash talk into silence and bravado into regret. Sapp to the boasts of Butterbean, from the insults of James Thompson to the cocky predictions of Usman and Materla. Each one met the same fate. A lesson in humility, taught with violent precision. Mariusz never needed to be the loudest in the room. He never relied on theatrics or elaborate insults. His rebuttals came in the form of takedowns, ground and pound, and knockouts, so decisive they left no room for debate. In a sport where hype can often overshadow substance, remain the embodiment of an old truth that respect is earned, not with words, but with action. And so, his legacy isn't just in his titles or the sheer spectacle of his victories, it's in the way he carried himself, the way he reminded the fight world that the strongest man in the world could also be one of its most dangerous. Every arrogant challenger who thought they could use him as a stepping stone, Mariusz Pudzianowski became the immovable wall, and more often than not, the last thing they saw before the canvas rushed up to meet them. Karma, as they say, hits hard. But when it comes in the form of Mariusz Pudzianowski, it hits even harder. And for those who underestimated him, the lesson was always the same. Mock the giant if you must. But be prepared to pay the price when the giant strikes back.